Okay. Hi, good morning. I am the person standing between you and lunch, which is a very dangerous place to be. So, um, hopefully that we get some ideas out of this. I'm always open to questions. Um, I am still relatively new to the marketing world, but I'll talk about that here in a second. So, I really want to talk about unlocking the power of social media through the student voice, which you guys have access to at your disposal. So, here's kind of my path to where I've gotten to. It's an interesting path, it's not conventional by any means. So, I actually started out in Western Nebraska. I saw some Western Nebraska folks out here. I started out in Western Nebraska in Hershey High School as a math teacher. So, that's where I started my career. And then I said, you know what? I think I can help more math teachers. So I got a job at ESU 16, which is based out of Ogallala and North Platte, um, teaching math teachers. And they were like, well, you know math, so you probably know science. So you're going to do both. I was like, great. And then they also had me do PE because obviously I can do all that. So I was still coaching cross country. I was working on one act, all of that while still doing professional development. And then COVID hit. And I was like, do I really want to be doing this? This is crazy. So I actually opened a small marketing firm in Western Nebraska, and I strictly focus on nonprofits, educational agencies, and um, religious agencies. So any kind of churches or anything like that. So my goal was if you need help, I want to be the one to help you. So whether that's with social media, whether that's with advertising, that's with your website, you need a video, I can learn video. You need something with photography? Sure, I'll do that. So that was kind of my goal with all of that, which propelled me into I was like, I was missing the core value of kids. I really enjoyed being around students. So what I did was I went and got a school marketing or school PR job at Papillion La Vista. So I kind of fused both my loves together, and I started working at Papillion La Vista as a communication specialist. I was their social media guru, website, whatever. Anything they asked, I was like, I've done that. Probably not the best, but I've done it and I'm learning. And then I did that for a couple of years, and then I got this job here at NSAA. So kind of using all of those background skills to kind of propel us into like the next phase of our own marketing. So here are some of my beliefs. Um, Number one, social media is important. How many, just by a show of hands, how many of you agree with that? Social media is important for schools, for people, for connection, all that. Okay, great. Number two, I saw this. Schools need help. How many of you agree with that? Yeah, yes. Okay, good. Um, and then number three, admin can't do everything. So I truly believe that there's a point where schools especially smaller schools, or I shouldn't even say smaller schools, mid-sized schools to small schools, they don't have a dedicated team for marketing. Like Papillion La Vista, I was one of four. Like that's a whole marketing team. But in, Hershey, Nebraska, it's like they give the password to the librarian and they're like, okay, good luck, make us look good. So I think that one of the things I want to talk about is crowdsourcing material. And I know that's not a new concept, but it kind of is in our educational world. One of the things that also got added to my plate while I was doing professional development at the ESU was they were like, you're in charge of our social media. And I was like, why? Like, that's not my job. Um, but what they wanted to do was highlight what the ESU was doing, and no one was in charge of it. So it was just kind of going out into the void. Like our receptionist had the password and she was just kind of putting out stuff. Happy Labor Day, happy 4th of July. Nothing about what PD we were doing, nothing about the good we were doing. And I'm not saying it's her fault. It's just she was never trained on it. And she was doing it by herself. So here's what we're going to talk about. Here's the overlay is who's your audience? What content are you putting out? And how can you grow it? Okay. Pretty easy. So one thing that I always like to start with is just doing an assessment of your social media. So what is working? I know you guys are not necessarily all of you are in charge of your social media. This is kind of just help in case that you can, if you see a need in your school, you can help them. So who is your audience? Okay. Where do they currently live? And is that where you want them to live? So is it are they living on Facebook? I will say that most of NSAA's audience is on Twitter. That's our largest following. Very different than our school. Papillion La Vista, Hershey, ESU 16, everyone was on Facebook, even trending toward Instagram. I get hired at the NSAA. We're now on Twitter, different world. Not not used to this world of Twitter, but I kind of incorporated more Facebook and Instagram, especially for I would say the older generation that just want to share pictures of their grandkids. They are not on Twitter, you know. I want them to share our pictures, but they're not on Twitter. So how can I take a picture of their grandchild and put it somewhere where they can find it, right? So that's something that I always think of when I'm posting. But since I started doing that, this is what this question is asking. What comes first? What follows? So where you put your time and energy is where your audience is going to gravitate toward. So I would say I have a different belief than who I took over for. So I put stuff on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I put a few more things on Facebook and Instagram. And all of a sudden, we're seeing a huge spike in our following in Facebook and Instagram. So we haven't lost anyone. We're still gaining following on Twitter, but we had a huge influx in followers this year, which is great for my 1 year evaluation. So, uh, yeah. So that was a huge thing. But that it kind of is like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Our audience is already on Twitter, and that might be true for your school. So do we cater to them and try to build that up, or do we spread it out? Do we start posting more on Facebook? You know, that's a question that you guys have to decide with your admin. Okay, one thing, here's just some help here with your audience. Your Meta Business Suite is an underused tool in the social media world. It helps you dual post to Facebook and Instagram at the same time. But mostly it gains you analytics. It gains you an insight of who's coming to the table, what are they doing when they're there. Are you getting a lot of people on one post and not another? Are we seeing a reach in interactions, things like that, on something that is student generated versus not? Are we getting a lot of interactions on Happy Flag Day? Like, that's good information to know, because if that's where we're getting the most interaction, we should probably do more of those, right? Um, but I would say between all of this, you want to be tracking your progress. That's something that you can take to your admin or your director and just say, hey, like when we put up a student picture or a student created content, like we have a spike in likes or shares or whatever. Okay. So keeping that in the back of your mind. 1 month. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And there is an app on your phone if you guys are app savvy. Um, it's the only way you can schedule. I shouldn't say the only way. It's the only free way that I found that you can schedule is through Business Suite. So that's super helpful.
Last year, we just did kind of a comparison with our last year analytics for NSAA accounts, and the top two out of the top three um, most interacted with content were national anthem performances. And so that's telling us big time that if it's more student centered, that's the more getting more engagement.
And that was one of those, I think, my beliefs, but also just a belief as the NSAA is like, we want to be putting out student content. So why aren't we? We're like having auditions for this, and then we say, good job, do it, and then see you later. Like this, we wanted to share it wider to the wider community. Okay, so here's our second thing, is content. This is kind of where you guys come in. So the big question is, what do we talk about, right? Is it interesting? Is it informative? How do we do this? Because I'm just a teacher teaching 7, 8 periods a day, right? I truly believe in the idea of a mob mentality. Now, some of you might already have a tool at your disposal called Class Intercom. Have you guys heard of it? Some people have heard of that. Okay, it's really that idea of you recruit content creators and you have them there. There's an app, they can submit content, and then you as the moderator can approve it. I'm not saying that's for everyone, okay? But I think it's a really good idea in practice. I just started doing it with our student advisory committee. We don't have class intercom, but now Tyler Cronin is our class intercom. So they text me or they email me content, and then I push it out on our social media with edits or new branding or whatever. If I need to give them feedback, things like that. So our goal with that is I want to show more of an inside look at our schools versus just championships. But I think you guys can do that really well in your schools also, especially small schools where you see them every day. You have a class period with them, all of that. This reduce, reuse, recycle. You guys, as journalism advisors, probably put out the best content that your school sees. And I would guess, this is based on very limited data, I would guess that it gets posted on a website or posted somewhere and then forgotten about and never pushed to the larger audience. I would say that this would be a huge step for you guys if you could push that content out on your social media channels, right? One thing that my former director at Papillion, she always said was, when you create it, you post it everywhere. How can we make this story a web story, a social media story? How are we putting in the newsletter? How do we pitch it to the news media? We take one idea and we post it everywhere. And it really took me a long time to understand that. But like, that's really what she wanted to do. She wanted to make kind of our lives easier of, we need to come up with story after story versus we already have a lot of stories. We just need to get them out more, right? The next thing, small steps lead to big leaps. Again, my personal philosophy is that people should be posting every day. That doesn't always happen at NSAA. That doesn't always happen at Papillion La Vista. You guys who probably are not in charge of your social media, I wouldn't expect that of you either. But I think that if you can move toward that or help your admin move toward that, I think that really helps. But it's like, you need to start with, how does the journalism class or journalism take over posting once a week? We always get Tuesday, right? We're going to post something every Tuesday. and then maybe that grows to Tuesday, Thursday, right? Um, but I think even that one day is a huge help. That's 20% of your week that you are providing content for your school district. Okay? Take a day to schedule. Like she was talking about, scheduling is huge. We have this award. What's it called?
Above and beyond.
Above and Beyond. We put out an award for nominations every Tuesday. I schedule those out a month in advance. And so you take a day, you schedule them, you forget about it, right? And then you can go to the planner and see what you've already scheduled. So I think that this is a great tool to use if you need to schedule out game nights, if you need to schedule out your Tuesday stories, whatever that looks like, that could be a really great tool for you to use. And it takes some time where you just sit down and plug away, and then off it goes. Follow the greats. And what I mean by that is I follow a lot of people that I steal from, right? So in my opinion, I did not help with this. I think Hershey Public Schools does a pretty good job with their social media. And it happened after I left. So I'm not taking any credit for it. But I think that what schools are doing is pretty similar across the state. So what ideas can you glean from other people where they're doing a motivational Monday? That's cool. How can we do that? They're doing a trivia Tuesday. How can we incorporate that? There's different ideas where right now I'm following all of our state associations across America, right? New Mexico Athletic or Activity Association has a really good social media, so I get a lot of ideas from it. So I would just encourage you to follow the greats, and then you're not always reinventing the wheel on your own. Push outside the box. There's a lot of stuff that we get into a rut, so sometimes it needs a shakeup. Sometimes we need to push a little further of how does that look different in our school, or how can we reinvent this idea? So I would always encourage you to stay creative and ask your students for feedback. And then the 90-10 rule. 90-10 rule, again, I didn't always follow this, but there is research behind this that 90% of the stuff on social media, especially for schools, this is research done for schools, 90% should be celebratory. 10% should be informational. So what that looks like is board meeting tonight, informational, not very interesting. People are going to scroll by. What is celebratory is Susie, a journalism kid, is going to present at the board meeting tonight. It conveys the same information, but then it puts students first and it gives that informational aspect. Does that make sense? Again, we don't always do that at NSAA, but it's something that we strive to do, right? And I will say, it's a little easier with the NSAA of like, they just won a trophy. They just won a trophy. They just won a trophy, right? And then like, oh, we also have board meetings, right? So something to strive for. Okay, this is, this is my personal belief. So I'll make sure that that's out there. But the content that I strive to make has these very simple rules. Is it interesting? Right? People on social media are looking for entertainment. So, is it interesting? Whether that's informative and entertaining, right? For the NSAA, is it student centered? Does it promote students? So, one thing that you can see, at least in our graphic creation, is every time I put something out, I think I strive to, um, it'll have a picture of a kid on it because I want to make sure that they are always at the forefront of our association. We get into the bylaws, we get into the this school's hating this school, and we're in the middle trying to duke it out. And I'm just over here saying, but it's for the kids, right? It's all for the kids. So stop yelling at each other. Stop yelling at us. It's for the kids. So I always want to make sure that even if it's informational, it's student centered.
Another, I want to throw in one thing with that. So before Tyler, the NSAA never responded or interacted with any responses online, ever. Like you could be saying how much the NSAA sucks and we hate you, and I mean it might get deleted, but you would never get a response. Now, Tyler does his very best to actually respond to angry people. And as long as they're being respectful, but they're still having, maybe they're upset about something, but it's polite, they'll engage with them, and he does that by asking one of us to like, hey, this is what this person is saying. Karen, as play production director, do you have any thoughts on this? And so we actually are able to reply, and I mean, 85% of the time, I just made that number up. Things that are getting, your angry comments aren't factual, and so then getting that what it actually is, like, how can the NSAA do this? Well, actually, the NSAA is made up of member schools who decide these things. We just follow the rules. So don't kill the messenger here.
Yeah.
Like that kind of, just so that it's education, that has really helped us, I think. Just so we can respond. I think we should try it.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I always tell this to Taryn, but it's kind of to all of our directors is everyone's invited on our social media, but you got to play nice. You got to act right, right? So I will always interact with you of, someone comments and says, "Where is the bracket?" Well, it's in 17 different places on our website, but I will go find it for you and reply with that because we're in the business of making people's lives easier, right? So if there's, someone who's looking for information, I'll try to find it. If they're just bitching to bitch, I will not always entertain that.
One
So,
really big thing that we got killed on last year that we kind of had to take a very direct stance on was with our national anthem performances, one girl had it memorized, and didn't have it memorized, used a note card. She did it because here she is on this national stage in front of thousands of wrestling fans. All she wanted was a little security blanket and like, here are the words in case it totally screws up. Well, people on social media are like just attacking this kid. And then so we had to do some educating about, hello, this is why it's happening. Like, hey, lay off, like, those types of things.
and I think with that also, like her parents were responding. So if her parents, we put it online, so I'm not expecting parents to fight this battle that we created. So they were fighting for their daughter, and I also went on there and was like, "Hey, that's not what we're about." Yeah.
Do you ever take, like, especially in that instance, do you take the Wendy's approach?
What was that?
Some of those where it's sarcastically talking back towards the people that, like, just outlandish statements, and you're like, okay, dude, you kind of need a little bit of a reset.
The biggest one that we've done is because we get killed on officiating all the time. People always have an opinion about an official or a judge or something. And so typically what we'll do is send them a response of, here's the application.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I would say Wendy's can be a little more tongue in cheek because they don't have a lot of, yeah. So I don't often be sarcastic because I don't know how it'll read to the person. But I definitely, like, there are some that don't deserve a response. Like, if you're going to comment on a student's appearance, don't need a response. Your comment is deleted. So there's some always caveats with that. One place that it'll be the death of me is Timely. So I always want to be the first one talking about our new state champion. Now, it's hard when there are 30 media outlets at the championship and they're all tweeting away while I'm running around doing something else. But I always want to be in the mix of that. So, one thing that would happen in the past is the next morning we would tweet out all the state championships from the night before, or the state champions. Not good enough for me. I want it to be in the mix with those media outlets. Now, they have a team. I'm one person. Doesn't always happen, but I think it looks worse when we're the last one to talk about it, right? Branded, does it uplift our brand or detract? That was one thing that I'm gonna throw Taryn under the bus. So like Taryn is very creative and she's a very lovely person. This is a compliment sandwich. She liked to use colors like pink and purple and lime green on our graphic posts. Not part of our brand. Surprising, right? Right. But here's the thing is, Taryn would come to me and she'd be like, hey, I need this graphic, and I would help her create it or create it for her, and it's branded, because every time you put something branded out there, it uplifts your brand. Every time you put something not branded out there, it sets you back like way further. So it's a daily struggle. Yeah.
So, like, as journalism teachers, we obviously know absolutely everything that is going on in the school district, right? So, with the use of Canva and our school districts use them, we put our Milford brand in there so all the students have access to that, all the organizations. So if they want, like, if an organization has something going on that I necessarily don't know about, I have done that a workshop with all of our teachers. And if they have a student person that's in charge of it, they come and visit me for a little bit of time frame. But I show them how to use Canva branding to make their student-centered content, and then that's what they can share with me. So that's just a suggestion if you guys have that capability to share that stuff and do a small little PD on it, and then those outside organizations or those um, sport athletic teams can kind of help make student-centered content for you to share.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially when you're like, that's not the right purple, or that's not the right blue. There's 17,000 different reds.
And that's what we were getting. We were getting so much stuff. So having that capability of putting the Milford brand in Canva where all students have access to it.
With a high quality logo.
Yes.
Yeah.
All helps tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did that with Adobe at our school.
Adobe does that also. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We already talked about this. Daily is my goal. Okay, growth. I think this is a question that is always good. I pose this to our own staff of what can we do better? How can we continue to grow? So we came up with more ideas kind of as a group. And then you as the facilitator can kind of parse those out. But I would say that an easy win for social media is putting more kids on social media. Like that's really like the easiest win. So like when I had nothing to post at Papillion La Vista, you put a picture of a smiling kid on social media and say it's a great day at Papillion La Vista schools, thousands of likes. The parents share the crap out of it. Like they're famous, right? So we just want to make sure that we're always keeping that at the center. Okay, here's my hot takes. Some of these are not hot takes, but I like to be cool, so I do. Social media is necessary. I think in our day and age, We have passed the limits of, I don't really need social media. I can grow without it. Not true. That's like saying, 30 years ago, we don't need a website. We don't need a phone number. Like now it's essential. Where you are, what you're doing is different. Number 2, don't tell my boss. Students do it better than adults. They do social media way better than I could ever do it. But where we differ is I have the bigger lens of how that's going to land with our audience. But usually we have our student advisory committee put together videos and then I edit them together. But they're usually the ones creating those ideas. So putting it out to students and asking their opinion on what's trending right now, what is something we can riff off of. If we had an event going on during the Taylor Travis engagement, you better believe that would have been on our social media. But we didn't, and it was out of place. But using those trends for our own social media is also helpful. It is the best free PR for your school, and I truly believe that. There's a lot of different tools that you can use. You can maximize your website, all of that. But social media really is the best PR that you can do for your school and where a lot of people are. This is kind of what we already talked about. My hot take is I always respond to negative people. And sometimes if I have time, I'll like the positive comments. But I always want to respond to those negative comments because if they're saying something untrue and we don't respond, then we give them the right to belittle us, right? On our own social media. Like, that's not right. So I always want to set the record straight. I will not get in a conversation with them, but I will say, actually, this is the truth, and we appreciate like you being part of our association, whatever. The tricky part, this is something that we can do that schools cannot do. We can block people. I never have. I can delete their comments. Schools, due to First Amendment rights, laws, all that, you have to have a lot of evidence before you can block someone or even delete one of their comments. Even if it's not true, you can respond with the truth. You cannot delete their comments. I hate it. It's annoying, but that's the law. So I just want to put that out there for you because I don't want you to go willy-nilly and start deleting comments and then get in trouble at your schools. Public funded entities are protected by First Amendment rights. So
I have a question. So
Yeah.
I always have to go in and turn off comments on Facebook. Does anybody know of a shortcut where you can just post it and it won't allow comments from anybody?
I think it's a universal rule in your settings. I can try to navigate there once or done. Yeah. Yeah. I will give you some free legal advice. Our lawyers at Papillion La Vista, who is also our lawyer here, they said that they would just never allow commenting. They said it is best if you just never allow it. I don't agree with that, but they said it would save you a lot of heartache and trouble and headaches and whatever. So free legal advice for you to ponder. I know. But, they're looking through very black and white lens, right? So if we get a lot of comments that are degrading us, it's hard to respond to all those. So then it just turns into kind of a social media bloodbath, right? Where we can't respond fast enough and then they yeah.
And so then, like our IT guy is going in and delete those.
Yep.
Because, we have my mom well, it said that there's a link. I'm like, go to the Huddle app. It's
Yeah.
every time the Huddle app.
Yeah.
That's why
There is I'll try to find this. I don't know how fast I'll be able to find it, but there is in the moderation tools, you you can turn off comments that include a link. And that takes care of like 90% of those, where no one can comment with a link, which would be hard for some things, but it would definitely cut down on those spammers. Yeah, we got some schools that were like, click here to buy this shirt. And I was like, that's not our store. Like, so anyway, consistency is key. So if you're going to do something, if you're going to label it Trivia Tuesday, make sure you're doing it every Tuesday or at least every other Tuesday, whatever you set forth. Consistency is key because people want to expect it, you know? Canva's great. I firmly believe that. I use both Adobe products and Canva, and just with the capability that Canva is coming out with, like it's now a rival to Adobe, and I think it's way more user friendly. So, and you can share it in your schools, and it's free for schools, and it's free for NSAA. So, one thing, this is probably not the group to say this to, so I'm sorry, but AI is underrated. So I use AI a lot with our social media captions. And especially when you're in like this creative block of like, I'm gonna say the exact same thing over again. How can I say it different and refreshing? I use AI. And so that might be something that could benefit you in your classroom or you in the social media realm. It's definitely different for me as a professional than when we're trying to teach students to do writing. But I think it is a great tool that is way underused. Okay, those are all my hot takes and my presentation.